Bandwidth for today's show is brought to you by SoftLayer.com. We love SoftLayer here at Talkapolis. They are the greatest hosting company ever. They make everything easy. Check out their website at SoftLayer.com. Thanks again for sponsoring the show. From the family grocery hauler to fire-breathing racing engines, the one name you need to know is USA Motor and Machine, located at 51 Cleveland Avenue in Nashville, Tennessee. Give them a call at 615-726-3725 or at usamotorandmachine.com.
Microcasting for your city, Talkapolis.
And welcome back, everybody. A final segment of Political Soup with Crom Carmichael and Joe Williams. And Crom, we've talked a little bit about last segment. You know, it's the change in how debt to GDP has gone up, and I guess I'm going to point to one reason, and that is I struggle every month to pay the provider of the cell phone that I carry and use not quite as much as maybe I used to. Why am I paying my own bill? The government's paying everybody's bill.
Now, this is an interesting story. Back in 2002, the amount of money that the federal government was paying was $600 million to subsidize somebody's cell phone bill. Now it is approaching $1.7 billion, where people are getting free phones and all their cell phone service paid for. Now, this is a great example of cronyism and greed, because these are private companies. These are private companies that under some law that's called the Lifeline program.
Right.
Okay. These companies, if they can provide phone service to eligible people, the government will pay them for the service. And so if I can make you eligible,
okay,
and I'm your provider, the government will pay your bill to me on your behalf. And I get to make a big fat margin. And so some of these companies are actually just mailing out free phones.
Well, you see the ads on TV. I mean, somebody's paying big bucks for some network advertising too.
Yes. And if you set up programs, it's kind of like, this is a little bit like Solyndra. Solyndra was a boondoggle. It was politically connected people acting like they knew how to make solar panels, and the government ended up losing $500 million of taxpayer money. The difference is that was a one-time deal. This is every year, and it's growing and growing and growing. It's now up to, as I said, almost $1.7 billion a year. And just look at that chart. It's just staggering.
And here, and I guess the question I've got, I remember when this program started, and it was designed for low-income struggling seniors who may not have anybody else with them, as if anything were to happen, they had a lifeline to get out for emergency services, et cetera. But as you say, it started out at what, 500 million or something?
Well, no, it's a lot smaller than that before. This chart only goes back 10 years.
But in the last 10 years, there's no way we've had that many. I don't care how big the baby boom generation is. There's no way that many people have gone into age eligibility, much less financial eligibility.
Well, and also the cost of the cell phone has gone down.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the number of people on it. I mean, when Obama became president, and let me say this was a bad idea whether it's Republican or Democrat. Even when Bush was president, we're talking $600 or $700 million a year in subsidies. It's gone from $700 million in subsidies to $1.7 million in subsidies. $1.7 billion in subsidies a year.
All right, and we're going to disagree a little bit there. I'm not sure that the idea is bad. I'm not sure the program is bad, but obviously the administration is horrible.
Well, it is, but I mean, if you look at Social Security disability, we now have more people on Social Security disability than we have in manufacturing. That's because the benefits are there. If you give aid to families with dependent children, to women who do not get married, have babies, and won't work, and you increase the amount you pay out, more women will have babies, not work, and not get married. If you pay people to behave a certain way, more people will do it. And if you pay businesses to provide a service for free, guess how many people want a free service? A lot. And so this will always happen with that kind of a program. So it's much better to have charities backing it. They will then look into and determine, will some people who ought to have a phone not get one? Yes, that's true. But you won't have this much fraud and abuse. You just simply won't.
Now, as we talk about fraud and abuse, let's talk about smart visas. And we're not talking credit card abuse here.
Well, this is kind of interesting. This was an article that's written by a fellow who is the president and CEO of Hilton Worldwide.
Okay.
And when I talked a little bit earlier about smart visas, I actually mistaken that when we were getting set up for this. But this is talking about the amount of money that people who travel to the U.S. spend. And what we have been doing, and Obama has made some progress, but not nearly as much. This article is really fascinating. The average Chinese who travels to the U.S. spends $7,000 in the U.S. on their trip, not counting airfare.
Okay.
Now, think about what the government provides for that person. And the answer is not a lot.
Yeah.
It's like tourism dollars coming into Nashville. That's the best money you can get because a person comes in, stays in hotels, eats a lot of food, buys some stuff, and leaves.
Yeah, and their money stays here.
And their money stays here. And so if we could increase the number of smart visas, and that means you have to be able to turn them out quickly. If we could do that, according to this article, and I do believe after reading the article, we could increase our travel, the amount of money coming into the U.S. by $206 billion a year.
There's that many who want to come and visit and go back.
Which would be 3 million new jobs in the tourism industry. And so let me say, Obama has done better on this than Bush did, but he needs to do better, and let's hope that he does, because that is absolutely and by the way, the tourism jobs are not rocket science type jobs.
Right.
These are the kind of jobs that ordinary people want, look for, and if we had more tourists, we'd have more employment.
Well, and you can use Nashville as a classic example of the tourism industry and how it's it has suffered over the past 15 years. It's had its ups and downs, but it's not where I thought it would be 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when there were some things going on in town. Not the same mix. Oh, heck, let's say it. When they closed Opryland, it killed the tourism industry around here for the most part.
Well,
on the summer side, anyway.
Well, it did certainly affect it in that regard. You know, it's interesting. Condé Nast, which is one of the premier travel magazines in the world, puts Nashville in one of the top 5 cities in the world to visit because of our music and because of our restaurants.
Yeah.
And so I think Nashville is definitely a hip place to be. I think the TV program, quite frankly, it's a lot of fun to watch. I enjoy watching it, and I enjoy seeing all the places that we know about.
Yep.
That's fun. But Nashville's clearly on the upswing, and we could really help our economy if we open up that spigot and let some of these tourists who want to come to this country and dump a bunch of money and go home.
If the Chinese,
and have a big time too.
Yeah, if the Chinese average 7,000, how many of the smart visas would get them into Vegas to where maybe they would spend a little more in one way or another?
That's right. That's right. But the Chinese come over here and they take advantage of everything. They'll go to Florida, they'll go to Disneyland, they'll go to Disney World, they'll go to amusement parks. I mean, I travel to China a good bit.
Okay.
And the Chinese people they love America. They love American things. And so when they come over here, they're excited. They are really excited.
Maybe we can send them a Sony TV.
Well, that would be a Japanese product made in China.
Yeah, but I was just going to say.
Yeah. I have a funny story. I have a grandson who is 5 years old. When I came back from China, I brought him a gift, and so he looks at it, and I said, Colt, I said, this was made in China, and he was thrilled that he had something. So then his mother got him a T-shirt, and so he's looking at the label, and he comes over, he says, look, it's made in China. So now everything made in China for him is very special, very special.
But you remember the day when made in China was?
Oh, yeah, and the China, just like Japan. You remember the first Japanese products?
Oh yeah,
they were trinkets.
Yeah.
Then the first Korean products, they were trinkets.
Right.
Then the first Chinese products, they were trinkets.
But now
that's just the way. That's the way.
Now they've advanced and we don't manufacture anymore.
Well, we need to get that back. We need to get that back, but we need to have the right mix of jobs and people and capital and incentives here to manufacture. Absolutely.
That'll happen.
Yep.
I'm firmly convinced it'll happen. It's just a matter of when.
Yes.
You know, we sit here and we rail a lot, but I'm just not ready to give up on the people as a whole yet.
There you go. Well, this next few years will be very, very interesting. The next election is going to tell us a lot because if the president does not win the House, my guess is in his last 2 years, if he wants to have a legacy, he will have to deal with the Republicans. If he wins the House and has the Senate, then we could have some more legislation that was as bad as his first 2 years, and I just think that would be an indication that we're going to all be speaking Italian soon.
Oh, if you were here earlier, you know exactly what that means. We want to thank you for joining us. Crum Carmichael, I'm Joe Williams. We call this Political Soup. We hope you'll join us the next time. We don't normally have this much fun.
I had a good time today.
That's a lie.
Yeah.
We always have a good time. And Crum always brings the facts. It's one thing you can just guarantee is going to happen. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next time on Political Soup.